everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video is going to be like a mini TBR for the holidays. I have 5 books that I've kind of singled out that I would like to read. Now, I'm not going to hold myself to reading all of these. Some of them I definitely want to read, and I had honestly forgotten that I had bought them. So yeah, we definitely want to get those read. I don't usually like making TBRs, but over the holidays, I think it's kind of nice to have a little bit of structure in case, you know, I can't figure out what I want to read. And like I said, some of these are ones that I really would like to read, and now is the time, I guess. So yes, before we get started, leave some sort of holiday emoji in the comments to let me know that you're here. So like I said, I have 5 books to talk to you about. They're mostly sci-fi fantasy. I have 1 thriller. So we'll start with the sci-fi one. So this is Fated Blades by Ilona Andrews. So this is, I guess, sci-fi romance, but this is the 3rd book in the Kinsman series. I love everything that Ilona Andrews writes. So this is one that I can't believe that I haven't read it yet. It came out in November, so I'm like, what am I doing? Anyway, so basically we have the planet Rada that seems like a lush paradise, but the ruling families, all boasting genetically enhanced abilities, are in constant competition for power, and none more so than the Adlers and Banas. For generations, the powerful families have pushed and pulled each other in a dance for dominance, until a catastrophic betrayal from within changes everything. Now, deadly, disciplined, and solitary leaders, Ramona Adler and Matthias Bana, must put aside their enmity and work together in secret to prevent sinister forces from exploiting universe-altering technology. Expecting to suffer through their uneasy alliance, Ramona and Matthias instead discover that they understand each other as no one in their families can, and that their combined skills may eclipse the risks of their forbidden alliance. So, I mean, that sounds wonderful. I have read it's like the collected Kinsman books. I can't remember what that's even called. It might just be the Kinsman universe is what I don't know. Anyway, this is one that, yeah, like I said, I can't believe I haven't read yet, and I just, the sci-fi romance is wonderful. I feel like the previous Kinsman books kind of felt like they were the precursor to their Hidden Legacy series. Like, I think there's a lot of similar ideas in terms of the houses and just like the family abilities and whatnot, and it's just like, love that idea. But this is kind of interesting because it's like genetically enhanced abilities instead of more magic stuff, so I guess it's really like a blend of sci-fi and fantasy. But anyway, yeah, definitely need to get to this. So then we have the fantasy books, and the first one I'll talk about is The 7th Bride by Kingfisher. So this, I think, is a retelling of Bluebeard. So we have young Rhea, who's a miller's daughter of low birth, so she's understandably surprised when a mysterious nobleman, Lord Crevan, shows up on her doorstep and proposes marriage. Since commoners don't turn down lords no matter how sinister they may seem, she's forced to agree to the engagement. Now, the lord demands that she visit his remote manor before their wedding. Upon arrival, she discovers that not only was her betrothed married 6 times before, but his previous wives are all imprisoned in his enchanted castle. Determined not to share their same fate, she asserts her desire for freedom. In answer, the lord gives her a series of magical tasks to complete with the threat, "Come back before dawn or else I'll marry you." With time running out and each task more dangerous and bizarre than the last, she must use her resourcefulness, compassion, and bravery to rally the other wives and defeat the sorcerer before he binds her to him forever. So that sounds really awesome. I always am up for a good retelling, and I feel like Bluebeard is not a story that I'm like super familiar with. I mean, I know the broad strokes of it, and I don't think I've seen this retold before ever, so this should be rather interesting to see. But I know I like T. Kingfisher's writing. Like, she wrote the Hollow Places and the Twisted Ones, and those are more horror than retelling, but they were so good. It's like, I think she does a fantastic job, at least with those, of blending humor and horror. So I'm assuming that we'll still have that kind of blend of humor. This actually could lean more horror with the story of Bluebeard. I mean, he's not great. But this is kind of interesting with the wives presumably still being alive. I don't know. We will find out. But yeah, I think this would be fun. And I know she's got like a whole bunch of other retold fairy tale type stories and collections and stuff. So I would like to read this first to see how that goes. And then, you know, there's plenty more for me to read if I really love this. The next fantasy, I guess, slash sci-fi, because there's time travel, book I will talk about is A Stitch in Time by Kelley Armstrong. Now, like, I cannot believe I have not read this one. I think it came out in October 2020. Well, what am I doing, right? Like, Kelley Armstrong is one of my favorite authors. I'm sure I'm gonna love this, so why have I not read it yet? But we have a Thorn Manor that's always been haunted, and it's always haunted Bronwyn Dale. As a young girl, Bronwyn could pass through a time slip in her great-aunt's house where she visited William Thorne, a boy her own age, born 2 centuries earlier. After a family tragedy, the house was shuttered, and Bronwyn was convinced that William existed only in her imagination. Now, 20 years later, she inherits Thorn Manor, and when she returns, William is waiting. But he's no longer the boy she remembers. He's a difficult and tempestuous man, his own life marred by tragedy and a scandal that had him retreating to self-imposed exile in his beloved moors. He's also known to be pleased with Bronwyn for abandoning him all those years ago. As their friendship rekindles and sparks into something more, Bronwyn also must deal with the ghosts in the present version of the house. Soon she realizes they are linked to William and a secret scandal that drove him back to Thorn Manor. To build the future, she must confront the past. So, I know the second book is already out. I think that came out in October this year. And there is a Christmas novella, that's story like 2.5, that is coming out, I think, in December this month. But I feel like that would be an appropriate time to read that novella, but that means that I really need to read the first 2 stories first. So, I think I can blow through these pretty quickly. They're not super long, I believe, and Kelley Armstrong, like I said, is one of my favorite authors, and I think she has such an addictive writing style. I just love her books so much, and this one seems really interesting with the time travel element and just ghosts and stuff. We have some sort of murder mystery, I think, as well. So this is one that I would love to finally read. So the last of the fantasy books I'll talk about is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. So this is a retold fairy tale, but like Regency romancy. So basically we have a fairy who has cursed Theodora, and since then she's had no sense of fear, embarrassment, or even happiness, a condition which makes her sadly prone to accidental scandal. Her only goal for the London season this year is to stay quiet and avoid upsetting her cousin's chances at a husband. But when the Lord Sorcerer of England learns of her condition, she finds herself drawn even more deeply into the tumultuous concerns of magicians and fairies. We have Lord Elias, who is handsome, strange, and utterly uncouth, but gossip says he regularly performs 3 impossible things before breakfast, and he's willing to help Dora restore her missing half. If her reputation can survive both her ongoing curse and her sudden connection with the least liked man in all high society, then she may yet reclaim her normal place in the world, but the longer she spends with Elias, the more she begins to suspect that one may indeed fall in love, even with only half a soul. So this just sounds so charming, and like, I've heard such great things about it. It seems just like cheerful, kind of a slice of life type thing, just very sweet, and like, I just feel like this sort of quality is what I'm in the mood for right now, and it feels cozy, and I feel like that's kind of the vibe that I want in my winter and like holiday reading. So this has been a series that I've been wanting to start for a while. I can't remember when I bought this first book, but I know there's at least another book out already, and it looks like there's a third book that is already out or is coming out. It says 2021. The third book came out in October. So yeah, definitely plenty of things to catch up on, and if I enjoy it, then I can kind of binge that series. But also Regency fairy tales. I don't know if it's necessarily a retold fairy tale, but it definitely says like the series is Regency fairy tales. So I think that we'll have some fairy tale aspects and whatnot, or just like that general type of vibe. So this is definitely something that I think sounds just really cheerful and charming, and I can't wait to try it out. So the last book I'll talk about today is a YA thriller, and that's 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. So I'll admit that I have not heard the most positive things about this, but I borrowed it from Prime Reading, and it specifically because it takes place at Christmas. So, I know Nikki from Books and Lemon Squash enjoyed it well enough. It looks like she gave it 3 stars. So, that's fine. We have Mira, who flies home to spend Christmas with her mother in Pittsburgh, and there's a record-breaking blizzard that results in a canceled layover. Desperate to get to her grief-ridden mother in the wake of a family death, she hitches a ride with a group of friendly college kids who were on her initial flight. But as the drive progresses and the weather conditions become more treacherous, she realizes that the 4 other passengers she's stuck in the car with don't actually know one another. Soon they're not just dealing with heavy snowfall and ice-slick roads, but the fact that somebody will stop at nothing to ensure their trip ends in a deadly disaster. So that just seems like a really fun time. Obviously it takes place at Christmas, so that's like perfect timing to read this. I like that, we have like a stalker thriller, it's snowing, that is not a good combination. I think she has a new book maybe coming out next year, and there's like a trend of numbers, so like this one is 5 Total Strangers, and there's like 6 months later, and then there's whatever is coming out that's like 7. And it's not like a series or anything like that. I think, okay, I lied. I think the 7 is 7 Dirty Secrets, that actually came out in November of this year, so my bad. I think it just seems like a fun time, and like even if it's not the best thriller I've ever read, it still takes place at Christmas, gives me the sort of vibes that I want, and it's just one that I really want to try out. Also, borrowing it from Prime Reading, it's like very low stakes about whether or not I actually enjoy it because I did not pay for it. Because I borrowed it for free. So yes, excellent. But yeah, so anyway, I'm hoping that I will get to all of these plus more books over the holidays, but again, just busyness and kind of feeling slumpy, like who knows what I'll end up doing. So at least I want to get to the Ilona Andrews and Kelley Armstrong books. Like those are very high priority for me now that I remembered that I have them on my Kindle. So let us read those. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or think you might pick them up. And for your question of the day, what books are you going to read over the holidays? So I do have a Discord channel, and if you want to join that, the link's in the description below. I hope you're all having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.